Good morning, madam. My name is Vinisha Arjunan. Today I will present about the introduction of article that our group choose for occupational safety and health law assignment. A powerful explosion occurred at a chemical recycling plant in Kapar Industrial Park, Klang, on January 20, 2025, releasing yellow, high irritating smoke that alarmed nearby residents and workers. Emergency teams responded quickly, containing the situation and conducting air quality checks. Although no deaths occurred, three foreign workers were severely burned. The blast also damaged nearby factories and storage units. Investigations were launched to determine the cause, and the incident sparked public concern and demands for accountability. This incident highlights the critical importance of the use and standards of exposure of chemical hazards to health regulation 2000 usage, which aims to control chemical risk in workplaces.
Good morning everyone. My name is Sambas Permanent. My metric card number is 4232004791D and I will be presenting section A for our occupational safety and health law assignment. Our topic focuses on the use and standard of exposure of chemicals hazard to health regulations 2000, or we can call as USACHH. I will be explaining 6 key clauses and how they related to the Klang chemical plant explosion. In section A, we discuss 6 important clauses from the USECH's regulations. These clauses are meant to protect workers from chemical hazards. I also will explain how each clause connects to a real-life chemical explosion that happened in Klang in January 2025. The first clause is about risk assessment. Regulation 9 requires employers to assess health risk before using hazardous chemicals. This includes identifying the chemical, how it can harm workers, and how often they are exposed. In the Klang case, recycled acid was stored on site, but proper risk assessment was likely not done. This led to an explosion and release of yellow, toxic smoke. If these clauses was followed, the incident might have been avoided. Clause 2. Regulation 10. Review of risk assessment. Next is Regulation 10. Even if a risk assessment is done, it must be reviewed regularly, especially when there are changes in the workplace. For example, if new chemicals are used or if something goes wrong. In the Klang plant, it is possible they didn't update the assessment after storing more recycled acid. This shows why regular review is so important to keep safety procedures up to date. Clause 3. Regulation 12. Control of exposure. Regulations 12 focuses on controlling exposure to chemicals. Employers must use methods like proper storage, ventilation and seal systems. If exposure can't be eliminated, it must be minimized. In Klang, yellow smoke spread during the explosion, showing exposure wasn't controlled. Proper storage tanks and leak detectors might have prevented this. Clause 4. Regulation 15. Provision of PPE. This clause is about personal protective equipment or PPE. If exposure cannot be avoided, workers must be given PPE like gloves, masks or acid-proof suits. In the Klang explosion, 3 workers were badly burned, which means PPE was not used properly or wasn't provided at all. Employers must not only give PPE but also train workers to use it correctly and wisely. Clause 5. Regulation 17. Health surveillance. Regulation 17 talks about health surveillance. This means monitoring workers' health when they are exposed to dangerous chemicals. Tests like lung checks or blood tests can catch early signs of illness. In Klang, workers were exposed to irritating smoke. If regular health checks were done, all the symptoms may have been noticed and preventive action taken. At last, Clause 6. Regulation 22. Training and information. The last clause is Regulation 22. It says workers must be trained to handle chemical safety. They need to know what the chemical is, how it can harm them, and what to do in an emergency. In Klein, poor training may explain why workers didn't react properly during the explosion. Training should be done before starting work and in a language workers understand.
Now I am going to present question B, which is choose two article and its relevance. First article is chemical plant explosion in Klein releases yellow high irritating smoke, which is the main article that our group chose. According to this article, a large explosion occurred at a chemical plant in Klein, releasing thick yellow smoke that severely irritated nearby workers' eyes and made breathing difficult. Although emergency personnel worked quickly to contain the situation, the chemicals released caused widespread fear and health risks. The relevance is the consequences of not fully complying to usage regulation are effectively demonstrated in this article. It draws attention to failings in emergency preparedness, PPE provision, risk assessment, and exposure control. The incident serves as an example of how workers and the community can suffer direct consequences when safety culture and regulatory compliance are lacking. The next is article number 2, Pasay Gudang Chemical Pollution Incident in year 2019. In March 2019, thousands of residents and school children were impacted by the serious air and water contamination caused by the illegal disposal of toxic waste into Sungai Kinkin in Pasay Gudang, Johor. The result of improper chemical handling, inadequate risk assessment, and a lack of exposure control measures are shown by this incident. It illustrates how widespread health crises can result from non-compliance with usage regulation. Its relevance is, according to the main goal of usage regulation, which is to prevent health hazards, both incident emphasize the importance of chemical hazard assessment, Regulation 5 exposure control, Regulation 9 training, Regulation 14 and emergency preparedness Regulation 17. That's all from me, madam. Thank you.
Hello everyone, my name is Tanageshwari Raman, my matric number 4232003921. Today I'll be presenting about the Klang chemical plant explosion and how the company should have managed the risk based on the use and standard of exposure of chemical hazardous to health regulation 2000, also known as USECHH 2000. In January 2025, a chemical plant in Klang exploded, releasing yellow eye irritating smoke into the air. This chemical release posed serious health risks to workers and the surrounding community. This situation clearly showed that the company failed to manage hazardous chemicals properly. According to USECHH 2000 Regulation 9, the company must conduct a Chemical Health Risk Assessment or CHRA before using any hazardous chemicals. They should have identified the risk of chemical used excess possible exposure during normal operation and emergency and plan how to control them. After the explosion, it is clear that their risk assessment was not enough or was not updated. To prevent such incidents, the company should apply proper control method. First one, they can substitute dangerous chemical with safer ones if possible. Second, they must install engineering controls such as ventilation, system, gas detectors, and explosion proof equipment. Administrative control are also important. These include providing standard operating procedure, restricting access to hazardous area, and ensuring clear chemical labeling. Besides that, workers must be provided with the correct personal protective equipment like respirators and chemical resistant goggles. The companies also should conduct emergency drill regularly and prepare eye wash station, first aid kits, and emergency response team. On a daily basis, the management must conduct pre-operational safety checks. These include inspecting the equipment storage tank and gas detector before work starts. They also need to hold toolbox meeting where safety reminders are given and daily tasks and risks are discussed. These practices help workers stay away of hazards and prevent accidents. In conclusion, the Klang chemical plant explosion could have been prevented if the management followed the USECHH 2000 requirements. With proper risk assessment, effective control, and daily safety routines, chemical plant can protect their worker and avoid such a dangerous incidents. Thank you.
So, to wrap up, in the conclusion, the Klang explosion shows why the USECHH regulations are critical. Each clauses from risk assessment to training plays a key role in preventing chemical accidents. When these rules are ignored, lives are put at risk as we saw in the injuries and toxic exposure at the plant. USECHH isn't just a legal requirement, it's a system to protect people. With proper implementation and tools like chemical expert tool, companies can prevent disasters. As future safety professionals, it's our responsibility to promote and enforce these standards for safer workplace in Malaysia. Thank you.